Good evening and welcome. It's a pleasure to call this meeting of the Mayor and Board of Aldermen for the City of Natchez to order. At this time, we're going to ask you to please stand. And we have Marcus Archer, who is a pastor in our community and also is the executive director for Stew Pot Natchez. We have asked him to provide our prayer this evening, and also we felt it was timely in that Stew Pot does so much for our community. And so many have been pitching in to help at Stew Pot lately with donations and others. And I don't know what we do without our Natchez Stew Pot. And so, Brother Marcus, we invite you to say a few words on behalf of Stew Pot and the season, and also lead us in prayer.
Well, if I can suck up to Natchez for a moment, in general, I tell people, first of all, I've never had to ask for money because churches and organizations and people are just generous in this town. I found that to be true at my church. I found that to be true at the Stew Pot. But more than that, the generosity to me has been whenever we've had a need and it's been communicated. I made a post on Facebook and Instagram earlier this summer, and I deleted it 2 days later because stop calling me. It's such a strong response. And I did that a couple of weeks ago, and we went from literally empty shelves, like absolutely empty shelves, to we don't know where to put stuff, kind of built. And what it is the Stew Pot could probably go through a lot more rigmarole and have fundraisers and raise a bunch of money and buy everything. But I said this the other night, that Natchez as a community really owns the Stew Pot. And so whenever we need something, we say, hey, if you want to give, please give. And then just this last week, it was Cathedral packing a bus. It was Juliana, the Miss Lou Champion Spotlight. I never can remember her last name. Yes. Had a party and brought up a car full of stuff. It was the Mayor's Youth Council the week before that brought us. It was just like one thing after another. And so like we literally run out of room there to put stuff now. And Thanksgiving is the biggest day of the year for the Stew Pot, not Christmas, but Thanksgiving. And so couldn't have come at a better time. So I'm just grateful for the community that we're in. I'm grateful that when I tell people it's not my job to get speeches on Sundays as a pastor, that I get to go and like live that at the Stew Pot and be a part of that. So like I said, if I can suck up to Natchez, thank you for being generous. And for our workers, they were literally in tears as people were Friday all day, just one person after another. We didn't know was coming, was bringing things. And it's just like, I've never seen anything like this. And so even the lady, Miss Johnny's been there for 35 years, just about. She's like, she just stand there at one point, just stand there watching the kids, just sitting there. And I know it's, and just overcome with all the generosity in the community. So thank you. Not just for the Stew Pot. There's other Thanksgiving meals and things going on, and it feels like there's enough to go around, which is really awesome. It's not about one thing or one person's deal, and so I just appreciate that about living here. So yeah. So I'll pray. Stop talking. But thank you guys. A lot of people, your churches, your communities, people you guys serve. There's a lot of generosity that floats around, not just this time of year, but all year long. So I'm really, really grateful for that. So let's pray. God, thank you for being good. You are good whenever we don't see it. You're good whenever we live in a world that doesn't look good or sound good, when it doesn't feel good to us, when everything around us is difficult and a struggle, it doesn't change who you are. And so I'm grateful for that. And I'm grateful for the fact that you're never early or late. You're usually just right on time. If we would just trust you a little more, your clock always keeps perfect time. And so I thank you for getting to witness that at Stew Pot this week, for getting to witness that in my own life, at my church, and God, for getting to witness that in our city. And so as this meeting takes place, as things are discussed, important things are talked about that affect everyday people in this community, and will affect this community not just tomorrow, but for weeks and months and years ahead, God. Would you provide wisdom that only you can provide to our aldermen. And I pray that whether it's the aldermen or the people in this room, that there would be a lot of graciousness offered back and forth as we struggle together to make Natchez a better place to live. And as we build up this city and make it a better place to live, that is a redemptive work. And so I pray that we would all take that to heart and treat each other lovingly, with respect. We can have fire and passion. We should. But God, I pray we would be gracious to one another in all things, particularly in areas when we disagree. And that people would leave here tonight not discouraged by a hard meeting, but encouraged by all the great things that are happening here in our community. As you grow and as this town grows and is renewed, God, there's more opportunities. And so there's less people in poverty, less people that are hungry, less people that there's people that have jobs and things. And God, those are all kingdom redemptive works. And so give wisdom to our group here to be able to do that work well. I pray this in Jesus' name.
Amen. Thank you so much, Pastor. Thank you. Now let us together recite our pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. You may be seated. We'll ask the clerk to administer the roll call.
Alderwoman Hall. Here. Alderman Fraser.
Here.
Alderwoman Smith. Here. Alderwoman Irving.
Here.
Alderman Davis.
Here.
Alderman Dillard.
Here.
Mr. Mayor, all present and counting.
Thank you. Thank you. I want to make a couple of announcements first before we start. We do have a public hearing on the agenda tonight. We'll start that in a few minutes. Also, we are going to have an executive session tonight to discuss some personnel matters that are very important to the city of Natchez. And it is our hope that we can get to that relatively soon. And I'm actually going to ask that we, unlike most evenings when we have executive session, that we would go into that executive session right after the department directors' reports. And that means we will have the city officials report, city clerk report, attorney's report, and mayor's report. Then following that executive session, we have some individuals that we just don't need to hold here all night. And speaking of not holding individuals here all night, we do have some visitors and a presentation. We would like to go ahead and get this done so that we aren't holding them all evening. And so we're going to ask for 5 minutes. We're going to ask Constable Willie B. Jones to please come forward. I believe you wanted to address the board, and Constable Jones, it is a pleasure to have you here. And so we're going to recognize you now for 5 minutes.
Good evening, Mayor and Board of Aldermen and all the women. First of all, I would like to congratulate the Chief Daughtry on his new job and thank him for his tenure here in Natchez. And I'd like to say, too, him leaving, we were prepared for this years ago. It happened in the 90s when I was on the Natchez Police Department. When we had a police chief, we also had an assistant police chief. Somehow they got out of that and decided that the chief was all I need. But we need an assistant chief, so when one leaves, we have somebody else to step in. It is my understanding that Chief Daughtry is leaving his post, and I think it is only fair that the mayor and board should consider someone within the Natchez Police Department. Some of these men worked there for over 25 years and never get a shot at being chief. I'm speaking about one in particular. He is Commander Jerry Ford. He established the first Citizens Police Academy. He hosted Neighborhood Watch to show citizens how to protect themselves, property, and business. Currently, Commander is over the criminal investigation and to my understanding is working hard to solve crime. He is a deacon at Smithland Baptist Church. He has a wife, children, and grandchildren. Education includes bachelor's, 2 master's degree. And he sit in some classrooms with him, some up here. When I speak about being in law enforcement, I'm speaking about we can be around here all our lives. We can go to school with you, be on football teams, everything together. And I'm looking at, we can be chiefs in this town too. Don't have to go out of town to get everything that you need when you got qualified men here in this town. And that's basically what I want to just tell you about. Y'all consider that you have educated men here in Natchez that can be chiefs too. I think if given an opportunity to serve as chief of police here in Natchez, Police Commander Jerry Ford will represent this community well and make us all proud. Thank you.
Thank you, Constable. We appreciate your coming by, and may I say, we appreciate your service to Natchez and Adams County. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, Alderman Frazier.
I'm in total agreement with Mr. Ford that we should consider someone from Adams County in this general area for the chief. And also, as we go into executive session, that we also look for the possibility of an assistant chief after we get a chief, because it's been a long time since we had an assistant chief in the city of Natchez. So as you know, like I say, it was unfortunate that Chief Daughter is leaving, but we're going to take care of that personnel matter. But we do need an assistant chief, and we should consider someone from the city of Natchez or the surrounding area who have the qualification. There is qualification for the chief of police, and it's under the civil service guideline. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Alderman Frazier. Thank you so much. Yes. Thank you, Constable. And you have a happy Thanksgiving. We also talk about not waiting all night. This person's been waiting a while for this, and we don't want you to wait any longer. It's been my pleasure over the last 2 years getting to know Scott Fry, who has served the city of Natchez for 28 years honorably as a police officer. He has also served our country. He is someone that is just a great person to know. And we asked him to come tonight because we want to bid him a happy retirement. And I'm going to come around. I'm going to call you Commander Fry because that was your rank when you retired recently. And we appreciate you. And I do have a question to ask you. Scott, first of all, you look real relaxed when you're not in uniform. You also look younger. I think that tells us something. Are you enjoying retirement? And what really stands out, 28 years serving our city?
Just the opportunity to serve people, it was I was not from this area when I got hired on, and just get to know everybody, they just welcome you in, and the people I work with, and the people I help in the community, it's just a joy and an honor.
Wonderful. We appreciate your service, we do. And this is a token. I know the police department's already recognized you, and we wanted to recognize you. So, and we're there if you need. And I got something too. You never know when you may want to travel with it, go out of town. That way you can transport it safely. I want to say one thing that we are doing. I want to thank Caroline Deason, our Director of Human Resources, for this. When someone serves a length of time here, we want to return to those days of recognizing them for their years of service, and especially upon their retirement. In whatever department or role that they have served the city, we want to really, as a matter of going forward, make sure that we are taking a moment to say thank you, and thank you for your high call of service over the years, Commander Fry. Next up, you'll notice I'm trying to get a few people on out of the way, and next up we have the pleasure of welcoming Mr. Alfred J. Walker, who is here to make a gift to the city, and this is a very important gift. It is actually, I'm looking at the agenda. It says 802 Maple Street. I don't believe
That's the last, I think, the last number on Maple Street, and it begins Cemetery Road, the next, the next step.
Is the address actually Maple Street?
Yeah.
It
Yes.
is.
It's the
Okay, well,
last, it's the last
house.
house on Maple Street.
just to describe to everyone where this is, it is a beautiful piece of property that is on the bluff, that is right across from the city cemetery. And we've been discussing this for quite a while, going back and forth with the Friends of the Cemetery for ideas, even talking to engineers. And it has come to this point now where the way has been cleared for Mr. Walker for you to make this gift to the city. I know you're making this gift in memory of someone very special and dear. I'd like to recognize you at this time.
Thank you. When my partner, Keith Carlson, died in 2016, I had an opportunity to buy that piece of property. And I thought it would be a way to memorialize his essence in the city. He went walking every single morning for 4 miles or more. He knew probably more people in the city than I will ever know. And it was appropriate, I thought, to buy that piece of property and in memory of him, and I call it the Keith Carlson Overlook. This piece of property has wonderful views of the river and Louisiana beyond, and a perfect place to contemplate life and death, I think. So I had a plan drawn up with the possibility of having a non-denominational columbarium set up for ashes that might be built on that property. So with this gift comes the design for the potential use of that spot for that, but there is not a demand that they must do that. Also, on that property is a angel, so-called looking angel, made of 3 pieces of granite that I found up in Maine, where Keith and I would spend the summers. And when I saw it, I said, this has got to be the perfect place for it. Well, it weighed 1,800 pounds, and getting it here was quite a feat. And when the truck came, they followed Maple Street and didn't take the turn at where the theater is. And the guy went right straight up the road, and they had to back this big truck all the way down. I said, where is he? I'm up there waiting for him. And it was 45 minutes after he was supposed to be there. When he got there, it was one man, African-American driver, who was phenomenal. And he got that off that truck, and we skidded it into position. And if you go up there now, you can see that angel. So that angel is staying with the gift, and just to memorialize Keith. So thank you for listening to that story.
Mr. Walker, I also want to say, we're running out of space in that cemetery, and there is more and more interest in cremations, and so I think a site for a columbarium is a wonderful idea.
If it's there, if it's not there somewhere else, but with the plan, the cemetery could make as much as $2 to $3 million with sales of the boxes for one person or 2 remains, sometimes a couple and a dog. And I had studied this at Mepkin Abbey, which is north of Charleston, South Carolina. And they had instituted this to keep this small abbey going. And it's been a phenomenal success. And people from all over the country send their ashes to have them incorporated into boxes. And what more beautiful spot than looking over the Mississippi River and for Natchez. So that's
Also, I want to point out just a couple of things. We have had engineers look at the site. They have noted, just looking at it and using photography taken over the years, that there's been very little movement or erosion in that site. A very good news. Also, the plans for a columbarium include drainage that engineers say would then divert the water to the road rather than to the bluff.
That's right.
And would alleviate any future erosion concerns. But the other thing that we learned recently is that in protecting Cemetery Road, it actually improves our application for NRCS funds when there is a cemetery or burial site on the property. And so this actually creates more protection for this to be incorporated into the city cemetery should there be any future sloughing, of the bluff in that area. So it's a true win for us. But knowing you and having heard you speak of Mr. Carlson, I just know this is a bittersweet moment for you. And we thank you so much for it.
You're very welcome. I want to recognize also Diane Bunch's assistance that she's given me on maneuvering the streets of Natchez.
Thank you, Dr. Bunch. Thank you. Well, at this time, this is in Ward 1. And so I'm going to look to Alderwoman of Ward 1 to make the motion that we accept the gift.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we accept the property located at 802 Maple Street, being given to the city of Natchez by Mr. Alfred J. Walker, in memory of Mr. Keith Carlson.
Second.
Okay, the motion has been made by Alderwoman Hall and seconded by Alderwoman Smith. Discussion on the motion? We'll call for the question.
Second.
We'll proceed to a vote. All in favor? Do we need a roll call vote on this one? Yes, all right. Alderwoman Hall?
Aye.
Alderman Frazier?
Aye.
Alderwoman Smith?
Aye.
Alderwoman Irving?
Aye.
Alderman Davis?
Aye.
Alderman Dillard?
Aye.
The ayes have it. Motion carries.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank
Walker.
you. And with that, Mr. Walker, we'd like to give you a certificate of appreciation just to commemorate this gift that you've made to us. And we do this in memory of Keith. Thank you.
Thank you.
And Mr. Jimmy Moore has to travel across state lines, and we're not talking Louisiana tonight. State lines, Louisiana, that's only a mile. And and I want to thank everyone here for the public hearing, for indulging us, and Mr. Carlton, thank you. But Jimmy Moore has been very gracious to be here, along with Daryl Stewart, who is the manager of the local operation. Mr. Stewart, pleasure to have you with us. They're with Arrow Disposal, and we have been having some concerns, some calls, to City Hall. We have reached out, and better than just handling it over the phone, Mr. Moore offered to come and actually meet with us in person tonight. And so, Mr. Moore and Mr. Stewart, we recognize you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Originally, I was going to be here tonight for this time of the year to thank y'all. You're not only our customer, but you're our friends. We've had a wonderful relationship with Natchez over the last several years. We're not perfect. We do make some mistakes, but we rebound from those mistakes. I tell everybody I'm dead weight. I travel this state, and as you said, I'm not going south. I'm going north home about 3.5 hours. But I'm going to, excuse me, stay in crooked letter I. I'm dead weight. Daryl Stewart makes everything happen. Your local manager, and he does a great job for us. And thank you for your prayer. I've got to recognize your prayer. And it reminded me of a pastor that used to be at my church. And it's not everything you said, but it encapsulates part of it. It said, what the church needs today is less pouting and more shouting. And that's a lot of what this gentleman said earlier. So you're truly blessed to live in a community that has that spirit of generosity. But Darrell and I are here tonight. If you have something you would like for us to address, please share it with us. If you call me tomorrow and ask me to share something with me to be addressed, I'll call Darrell because he is where the rubber meets the road. And I'll help you anytime I can. All of you know that because I know each and every one of you. But again, we appreciate it. I hope you have a safe, blessed, and happy Thanksgiving and a very Merry Christmas, because I probably will not see you again until sometime in 2023. So with that said, Darrell, if he has comments, can certainly share them. And then we'll answer questions or take your concerns, whatever you may have.
Thank you.
How everybody doing, ladies and gentlemen? First of all, I would like to say, if you have any type of problem, the only way I really can solve it, you have to have an address. You have to let me know what's going on and who the problem, so I know who to address. But if there's a problem, I'm gonna solve it ASAP. But like I said, I just have to know who it is. Like you said, we're not perfect, but we're not bad either. And some of you all I know, and some of you all don't deal with me. I'm gonna deal with the problem immediately. Going to deal with it, guaranteed. So, like I said, whenever you have any kind of issues, just have an address for me or a phone number, and I'm gonna address that issue, and you'll never have to worry about it again.
Thank you. It doesn't get better than that. Alderwoman Hall?
Yes, I've worked with Mr. Dale a couple times. I've had some issues in the neighborhood, and I called him, and it was rectified immediately. Thank you.
Thank
I
you.
would like to say,
Alderwoman Irving?
and I too have had some problems with trash pickup, and it's been rectified immediately.
Great.
So he does a great job, and we just want to thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Let me say this, Darrell.
Yes, Alderman Frazier?
Your service has been, so far, has been excellent. I just have one complaint. I know sometimes your crew be in a hurry and they might drop a little trash out. Tell them just stop and pick it up.
Yes, sir. Yes,
They
sir.
just been down and throw it.
And if you give me your address, I'm gonna make sure your address.
You ain't got to worry about it because I'm gonna go out there and tell y'all to pick this up. But other than that, y'all been doing a good job.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Really appreciate you all. Appreciate you all for just letting me do the job.
Thank you.
I love it.
Because if not, because that gentleman there, I tell you, I will tell you.
I know you didn't play. Yes.
Mr. Stewart, I know just yesterday I was texting with you, I believe, Mr. Moore, and we have had a few issues recently with recycling where individuals claim that their recycling is getting picked up on regular garbage day and mixed with the regular garbage. It's my understanding that that's being addressed. And
Yes, sir.
thank you.
Has been addressed.
And thank you. And then also, Alderman Frazier, you just reminded me, I do get the occasional call, wish they wouldn't just leave the garbage can in the street. And I know sometimes we get in a hurry, but when we get those reports, we'll let you know the address and we'll make sure at the mayor's office,
Just
they
call me.
in, we're going to tell them, look, to report this, we need your name, address, and phone number.
Yes.
We'll
Just
make
call
sure
me
we're
and
following
I'll
it.
take care of it. I promise you that.
All right. Thank you. Yes.
One thing Darrell can address it for people that do not know, and some people find it strange, tell them our Thanksgiving schedule.
No, we're working.
We're working.
We're working Thanksgiving.
We're
We're working.
Oh,
We don't
That's
stop.
really good for
Oh, yeah,
public
we're not gonna
service.
stop.
well, may I tell you that yes, Natchez Stew Pot is serving Thanksgiving with all the trimmings right there on Franklin Street. But in addition to that, Carla Brown is having a community Thanksgiving lunch at the convention center. It will be from 11 to 2, and everyone's welcome. And you can sit inside, have fellowship, or get it to go. So please tell your drivers that they are welcome to these Thanksgiving meals that are freely being served here in Natchez.
Yes, sir. I appreciate that. I will. I really appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you.
I have a question, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, Alderwoman Irving?
Will you do the same for Christmas? So that way constituents would know in advance.
I
What's
can't really
the-
answer that right now. Just give me a little time for the Christmas in December. You know, I don't want to lie to you or
I understand.
mislead nobody.
Just
So
we need to know holiday.
I have to discuss it. Usually when we do something like that, we discuss it with the drivers and then we discuss it with them in Abbeville. And if they agree to it, we'll go. You know,
I want to encourage our citizens, when you see them out on Thanksgiving, make sure to give them an extra thank you. And we're just very grateful.
Okay. And another issue about the recycle. Recycle is hard down here. As far as you have a lot of people, they'll bring in both cans. And for garbage day, they'll pull a recycle can out with their trash can. And then if I have new helpers on the truck, it confuses them because they wonder like, why are they pulling the recycle out with it? So they will dump it, you know, because they don't know the people now. If it's old helpers, they sort of know people house by house what they want.
Yes.
But you know, the turnover rate is pretty high. I'm not gonna lie to you. So that's what's getting us on recycle. These people are not pulling in their cans, they're pulling them out on garbage day. You know, so and then some people throw garbage in there, and then if you don't get it out, they'll go and call and say, y'all missed me. And then when you get there, it's a recycle can full of garbage. So recycle is sort of, I'm not gonna lie to you, sort of a complicated thing, and I'm not gonna ever say that it'll be perfect. We're gonna always have little issues, and I'm gonna make sure the issues are real small, but we're going to always have little issues with recycle, sir.
Stewart, thank you. You know, we have an individual paid by a grant to help us with recycling issues in the city. And perhaps, Dustin, I know you have helped her with public service announcements and things. This is something we need to get on and enlist her help in getting word out in the community and in the local media. Good. People just need education. And Alderman Smith just said, Recycle Day is Wednesday, blue cans only.
And bring it in tonight.
And bring it in. That's right. Thank you.
Thank you all. You all have a blessed
Thank
evening.
y'all.
Safe
All right,
travels.
thank you.
Thank you. All right. We now are going to have our public hearing. And at this time, I'm going to entertain a motion to go into our public hearing and call it to order.
So move.
Motion made by Alderwoman Irving and seconded by Alderwoman Hall. Do we have any discussion? We'll call for the question.
Second.
Question's been called. We'll proceed to a vote. All in favor of the motion indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Motion carries. It is my pleasure now to introduce Mr. Tommy Carden, attorney with Butler Snow, who has been working with the city for some time on this. And we now turn it over to Mr. Carden.
Thank you, Mayor Gibson, members of the Board of Aldermen, and members of the public. I'm going to just scoot this around just a little bit, if I can, because I don't like to have my back to everyone when I'm talking. So I'll try to do that if I can and try to cover the waterfront. It's my privilege and honor to be here tonight with you to assist with this public hearing. I want to talk to you first of all and go over the purpose of this hearing, and then talk a little bit about the process that we will follow. And then I'll give you an overview of the census data and the map, the proposed map, and how it's been developed. And then we'll open the floor up for public comment. Let me mention to you, as you walked in, there was a sign-up sheet on the table. And if you wish to make a comment tonight, appreciate if you would sign up so that the mayor can recognize you at the appropriate time for that. The purpose of the public hearing tonight is to receive public input about the redrawing of the ward boundaries. The public input tonight can be in the form of your public comment, your verbal comments, or if you wish to submit written comments, you're welcome to do that tonight, and they'll be made part of the record. Tonight's hearing is not intended to be a question and answer session with the board. The board's not taking any action tonight. The board won't vote on anything tonight. The board will take this up at some later date. The purpose tonight is to hear from you, members of the public, with regard to the proposed draft. I'll go over in a few minutes the census data and the draft, but for the time being now, let me just talk a little bit about the process. As I mentioned to you, there was a sign-up sheet for you to sign up. If you wish to make comments tonight, sign up on that sign-up sheet. And then Mayor Gibson will recognize you at the appropriate time for your comment, and you will be allotted 3 minutes, which is the normal period of time, as I understand it, with regard to public hearings that is allowed, and that will be the time period that you will be allowed to speak. This hearing is being recorded, so please speak clearly when making your comments so that it can be recorded accurately. And as I mentioned to you as well, you can also submit any written comments if you wish to do so tonight. Now I want to turn to an overview of the proposed draft plan and share with you some of the numbers, the data, and how the plan was developed. You will notice that there are 3 large maps that are on display here tonight. And as you're looking at those maps from left to right, the first map is labeled existing wards. Those are the existing ward lines now that are currently in place in the city. The second map is a proposed draft plan that's the subject of public comment tonight. And the third map, the one on the far right, that's a map of the proposed plan, but it's got, you'll see there are thick black lines that are overlaid on the colors, on the different shades. That's an overlay of the existing lines so that you can see where the changes are being made. The ward lines are in different colors, and they're color coded on the maps, and you can see the changes that are being made. I'll describe those changes for you generally in just a few minutes, but those are the maps that are before you. There's also a smaller version of the map that was on the table when you walked in for you to take and use and have that, and you can keep that and look at that as well. A couple of other items too. There were 2 data sheets that were on the table as you walked in. One is labeled Benchmark 2020 Census Data, and the other one is labeled Natchez Ward Proposed Plan, September 12, 22. The benchmark census data is a table of the 2020 census numbers pumped into the existing district lines. And that's the first thing we look at in order to determine whether there is the need to actually redistrict. And when you put those numbers in to the 2020, to the existing lines, the total population for the city of Natchez is 14,520. So the ideal ward size is 2,420. If you were to make 6 perfect size wards to add up to that total, each one would be 2,420. The U.S. Supreme Court has held that you don't have to hit that number perfectly for each ward. You've just got to stay within plus or minus 5% of the ideal district size, and that would make your total overall deviation less than 10%. And so if you'll look on your data sheet under the benchmark 2020 census data, you will see the current numbers for the 6 wards. And you'll notice at the bottom of the sheet in the left-hand corner, there's a total variance of 14.63. The way we arrive at that is we look at the ward that is the most overpopulated ward, and then you look at the one that's the most underpopulated. And you add the percentage, those 2 percentages together, and if those percentages are over 10%, then you're required to redistrict. And since the number here for the existing lines is 14.63, that's the reason that the city is undergoing the redistricting process. You'll note with regard to the variances, wards, the wards that needed the most, had the most change, or would have had the most, or might possibly could have the most change. Ward 2 needed to gain population. It was low. Ward 5 needed to gain population. Wards 3 and 6 were overpopulated and needed to lose population. Ward 1 could stand to gain a little bit more. Ward 4 was just about the ideal population. And so we had to look at reducing the population in 3 and 6 and adding population in 5 and 2 and some in 1. It's very difficult to go through this process and not affect all ward lines in some form or fashion, because when you make a change to one ward line, that certainly affects the ward that's adjacent to it, but sometimes it also affects the other wards because of the population changes that you're making. The process that we used here is we first of all, we visited with each individual board member and received their input on the geography of their wards and the characteristics of their wards, the history, and the current circumstances with regard to their wards to get their input. So we visited with each one of them and received their input. We also followed a certain set of redistricting guidelines, criteria that we typically follow when we redraw ward lines like this. Those redistricting criteria were: number one, the wards need to be drawn so that they're within the overall maximum deviation of 10%. That is a federal constitutional requirement called the one person, one vote requirement. And so that's the population equality requirement that we need to follow. The second guideline that we followed was that the plan should comply with Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act. Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act is a very important law that's important for us to follow and to adhere to in the redistricting process. So we did that here. Also, each ward needs to be contiguous. Each ward needs to be as compact as possible while adhering to all other guidelines. Each ward line should follow natural geographic boundaries where possible, so that it's easier to describe the ward lines for the voters. We made sure to separate each incumbent alderperson into his or her existing ward, and then the plan should be drawn to try to maintain the geographic cores of the existing districts to the extent possible. The idea being trying to minimize the changes that are made and stay within the other guidelines that we need to try to promote there's as little confusion as possible in the change of the boundary lines. So real quickly, by way of summary, I'll just go over what the changes in terms of the territory are in the proposed draft. And I'll point out to you as well, the other data sheet that you have is the Natchez Ward proposed plan. That is the data sheet that reflects the population in the proposed draft and what those population numbers look like. You'll notice the total variance in that in the proposed plan is 6.81%, which is well below the 10% overall maximum deviation. And you can see the other statistics that are set forth in that. Now, with regard to the changes, we'll start with Ward 1, and up in the northeastern corner of Ward 1, the territory involving Mario, Daniel, Louisiana, and the Felix Street area transfers from Ward 1 to Ward 2. There was in the existing ward plan, there's a split census block up there, and we try to avoid split census blocks as much as possible. Census blocks are the geographic unit that the census uses to count population numbers. And so we draw wards based on those census blocks to the extent we possibly can. So that cleaned up that area in terms of transferring from Ward 1 to Ward 2. In Ward 1, going on down towards the center, lower part of the central southern area, transferred a little area south of Pipe Street and Brill Avenue to Ward 6. And again, that was to clean up a split census block that's in that area. Down in the southern, kind of the southeastern area, we transferred the Natchez Creek, Cherokee Street area to Ward 6, making everything north of the railroad track there in Ward 6. And then Ward 1 acquires some territory south of Briarwood Road to balance the population out. Ward 2, you'll see is I just described to you the changes between Ward and Ward 2. And so with Ward 2 up in the northwestern corner, it acquires that territory that was cleaning up that census block in that Mario, Daniel, Louisiana, and Felix Street area. There is an area in the north end of Ward 1 that there's hardly any population up there, but again, it's a split census block. And that area transfers over into Ward, that transfers from Ward 2 into Ward 1 up on the northern area. On Ward 2, in terms of over, if you look at the the northeastern corner coming on down to where it intersects with Ward 5, there's a Ford Street territory. There's a little territory in there that goes from Ward 5 into Ward 2. And then with regard to the southern border area of Ward 2, that's where it acquires additional territory from Ward 6 in the Liberty Road area in and around Linden, Brightwood, Itasca, and down over to Wood Avenue. That area down there goes from Ward 6 into Ward 2. Ward 3, the only change was that there was that territory transferred south of Briarwood down to Highland Boulevard over into Ward 1. That was drawn on census blocks to try to balance the population. Ward 4, there are no changes in the current boundaries to Ward 4. They stay the same. Ward 5 transfers, I mentioned up in that. So if you look in Ward 5 in the north western corner, that little territory around the Ford Street area goes into Ward 2 from Ward 5. And then down in the southern part of Ward 5, Ward 5 acquires the Aldrin Court area down to Turtle Lane, north of Ridgewood Road, over to South Shields from Ward 6. And that area goes from Ward 6 into Ward 5. With regard to Ward 6, I've already mentioned that little area south of Pipe Street, Brill Avenue, to clean up the census block that goes over to Ward 1. Ward 6 acquires the Natchez Creek, Cherokee Street area from Ward 1. Ward 6 transfers that Linden Drive, Brightwood area to Ward 2. And then Ward 6 transfers the Aldrin Court area to Ward 5. With these changes, as I mentioned to you, the overall maximum deviation of the plan is well below the 10% overall guideline. And we believe that this plan also complies with the other redistricting criteria that I outlined for you. And so that's an overview of what the proposed draft consists of. And Mayor Gibson, I'll turn things back over to you to recognize anyone who wishes to make any public comment.
All right.
And I guess I need to get the sign-up sheet, don't I?
Mr. Carden, thank you for such a great presentation. I know a lot of work has gone into this. We will now follow the sign-in sheet, allowing those who would like to speak to speak. We do allow you 3 minutes to make comments. We have Joyce Mathis, Lorraine Franklin. We have, let's see, Ms. Chapman. We have Mr. West. We have Mr. Howley, Mr. and Ms. Strader.
Good afternoon.
Hi, Ms. Mathis. Good afternoon.
I've been looking at this. We just got it today, so it's hard to have written comments ready for tonight. So if we had any written comments, where could they be sent or emailed?
To the mayor.
Okay. To the mayor and board, right?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Also, can we receive, because I'm gonna make this short, I won't need 3 minutes. Can we receive street names in the transfer? Would that be from the mayor or from you or through the board? Yeah, but they're real tight. They are, some of us have had birthdays and our sight is not that good. Now, I am trying to order the glasses that go over these glasses and it will, magnify this, but they're not gonna come by the time y'all get ready to vote on this. So could we get a list of street names per ward, per proposed ward?
We can certainly request that.
Okay.
Is that possible?
Well, then I'll provide you just what I read to you tonight.
Right, what you said, but it was just,
Yeah, and I'll give you that, and that'll tell you what the street changes are.
it's just so time.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
All right.
And really, I think from what I'm looking at, I think you all have worked together and I think you've done a good job. I really do. We're trying to look at it and as fast as we can and look at any of the changes. The only comment that I would like to make, I was looking at, and I guess Ward 1 and everybody in here knows why I would look at Ward 1. So Ward 1 moving down past 2, I would really wish it had picked up a little bit of and I see where it picked up. I see where it deviated and went down here into the southern end, and I overlaid it so I could make sure I saw where it was. And I understand the pickup. I think the parts up here that didn't have any people in it might have been around Thompson and around Natchez College. I'm glad that stayed in. And so then you have this little deviation down here that went down and picked up, I think you said from Ward 6. I think that's what you said in 1.
It was Ward 6 and then.
Right. Ward, it picked up from 3 and from 6. Okay. Those were the 2. I was just wondering if it could have picked up a little of 2 while it was up here. But those are the comments, and I'll write them up and send them into the board. Thank you very much for your consideration.
Thank you, Ms. Mathis.
Mr. Mayor, I'd just like to say this.
Alderwoman Hall, you're ready. I'm sorry.
She can't,
Alderwoman Hall.
she can't comment on that.
Yes,
It's just open.
during public hearing, we still maintain as a board of aldermen, don't we? I know we've had alderman comments during public hearing before. Mr.
We run this, Mayor, but right now, this is the public stuff.
Okay.
That's what
All
I'm
right.
saying.
We'll ask them,
that's okay.
we'll ask that any alderwomen hold your comments until after the public hearing. Thank you. Thank you, Alderman Frazier. We now will recognize anyone else who would like to speak. Okay. Yes, ma'am.
I just want to correct something.
Yes.
Come to the podium.
Come to the podium. Yes.
I'm Lorraine Franklin, and I signed the sheet, but I didn't necessarily have to speak because there was a section that said if you want to speak, do the check mark.
Oh, okay.
And I'm an educator, so I didn't do the check mark.
Oh,
Okay.
Ms. Franklin, thank you. Thank you. You know, some of us have had some birthdays and may need their glasses checked. And I might need to team up with Ms. Mathis. We might could get a group deal on. Yes.
I agree with Dr. Franklin.
Yes.
Because I thought it was just for the check marks also, but I will say this.
We invite you to come to the podium. Mayor West.
You
have to
talked
speak, don't
before
you
the
mind?
meeting, remember?
Yes.
Your board attorneys asked me not to even come back to this meeting to be here this evening because he thinks I may start something. I'm not trying to start anything, but I just wanted to say I would agree with Ms. Franklin. I thought the check mark was for those who wanted to speak, but I was just going to comment that I've seen a number of redistricting plans in my lifetime, and this comes very close to being almost perfect based on numbers. And I just wanted to commend you for that, and your presentation was very clear.
Thank you, Mayor
Thank you
West.
very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm going to pass this down to the city clerk. I believe that is everyone who wanted to speak. So at this time,
I didn't know that was there.
that's all right. Of course you can, and we'll have you sign the sheet. But yes, of course, Reverend Archer.
One thing I noticed is, this is more of a curiosity question for me. Personally, I'm still firmly in the ward that I'm in. But my question is, will any of these redistricting lines, so my church is the Belmont voting precinct. They're on Highland Boulevard. And based on, if I'm looking at this correctly and not looking at it backwards, my church, it falls under the new district lines there into where Ward 1 is versus being in Ward 3. Does that affect the way that works as far as the voting precinct goes and all that? Doesn't affect any of that stuff? Okay.
I will ask the attorney to speak to
Just,
that.
I'm curious, like, I know I vote there or whatever, and we, it's just good to know how that all works. So.
Does the precinct, Mr. Carden, does the precinct need to be in the ward that it is a precinct for? That is a good point.
Well, the precinct, yes, would be, but you can have a voting place and you can vote more as long as each precinct has a voting place. You're fine. And so the change in ward lines could affect precinct lines.
Yeah, that's right. It's right there in the
yeah,
change.
because
that's what I noticed. So.
And we'll just have to look at that depending on if the board adopts this, as to how that affects the precinct line.
Yeah, that's all. Just wanted to be interested to hear
Thank
that,
you. Thank you. At this time, I will entertain a motion to adjourn the public hearing and return to our regular meeting.
Second.
Motion made by Alderman Davis and seconded by Alderwoman Irving. Discussion on the motion.
Call the question.
The call for the question. We'll proceed to a vote. All in favor of the motion indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay.
Nay.
The ayes have it. Motion carries.
We also made a call. I'm sorry.
Oh.
It's aye? No, it's aye.
You voted aye? Okay. So the vote is aye, 0 nays. And we are now in our regular session. I want to thank everyone for your patience. I do apologize that there was some confusion earlier in the afternoon with the meeting time, but I thank everyone for being here. Thank you for your comments and participation. Mr. Carden, thank you for your presentation. Alderman, any alderwomen who had comments at this time? Alderwoman Hall.
I'd like to thank Mr. Carden and for all of the aldermen. Mr. Carden did meet with each alderman individually about the changes in the redistricting plan. And this was a public record. This map was in the city post office for over a month for the public to view. Thank you very much, Mr. Carden.
Thank you. Are there any other comments? Any other comments? All right. We will now return to our agenda. Y'all, we are going to recognize one other person before we move on. I'm just trying my best to take care of citizens who are here so we don't hold them all night. And we do have an individual here who's on the agenda, Mr. Connor Burns, who is making a presentation to the board.
He had to step out. I'll see if he's outside,
Oh.
if that's okay.
I can present it if you want to see if he's available, but we're going to go ahead and make this presentation because I think it's pretty straightforward. We have an individual in the community who has made a very generous offer to buy a piece of land that is adjacent to the the Civic Center. And this is a very small parcel that is not being used at the moment for anything except really debris. It's an unsightly area. The offer is based on recent sales in this vicinity and what is seen as a fair offer. The offer is to purchase 474.95 square feet at $10.47 per square foot, which has been shown to be the going rate in that area, for a total of $4,972.50. This, we have discussed this before. We have discussed this with the individuals who manage the Civic Center and Convention Center for us, and they are in full agreement that this is a piece of land that is pretty much locked, is not good for parking, it's not really good for anything except access to equipment. And that access to equipment would have to remain in place. And so this proposal has been made to the city. Mr. Attorney, is this something that we should discuss in executive session, or is this something that we could go ahead and entertain a motion for?
I think if you want to entertain it, I would do it. We've done it in open session the last time, and I think it's best in public because we're not really negotiating. If the board sees fit, though, please remember that we've got to declare it surplus property. We can sell it for the average of 2 appraisals, Mr. Mayor. We can't just go into a real estate market type setting and sell for a square foot. So the price has to equal what we do 2 appraisals are. And, you know, if we were to do that, it needs to be surveyed off. And I wouldn't want the city to bear the cost of the survey or the appraisals if we are going to go through with this, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, yes. Now, the city has, do we have the option for the city to pay for one of the appraisals?
Certainly, that's.
I believe we have done that as a courtesy in other transactions.
Right.
So at this time, what I would do is I would entertain a motion to have consideration for Mr. Burns's offer pending a survey and 2 appraisals, and in so doing, declare this property surplus.
So moved. Second.
Motion has been made by Alderwoman Hall, seconded by Alderwoman Smith. Discussion?
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, Alderman Frazier.
I'm in total against this, and I'm gonna tell you why. I'm gonna tell everybody else why. This property, this is about the 3rd or 4th time that he's been before the board and tried to acquire this property. This started under Mayor Grinnell administration, and we denied it, and we denied it once this year already again. I'm not in favor of selling city property downtown. We need to retain our own, keep that parcel of land. It might be small, but who knows in the future what the city might need it for. We sold property in 80-something. We sold property in 1980 to a company here, and we lost on that, and the company went out of business. They want to charge us the city an extravagant price to buy it back. So I'm not in favor of this. Now, if it was somewhere else, let's put a little further, it was, like I say, it's not really a blighted project, property or anything, but I think we should retain all the property downtown for the city, and we shouldn't be just selling property downtown because we don't know what the future development going to be downtown. We're talking about at one time expanding the convention center and stuff. That little piece of property might come in handy. So I'm not in favor of this, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Frazier. Alderwoman Hall, you're recognized.
The property in question is 474.95 total square feet. He's already shared this with the board. He is a potter. That is his business. And he will store some of his pottery equipment in that area. That's what it's going to be used for. At this point, it's not being used for anything.
Thank you. Thank you, Alderwoman. Alderwoman Irving, you're recognized.
Yes, sir. I'm not in favor of it either, Mayor, because again, I share the same sentiments that Mr. Frazier did. If you're planning for the future, we've did this before many years ago, and we end up having to pay a very huge price for getting property back that was sold for way less than what the offer would be to buy it back. And so now I think, again, if we're planning for the future, and who knows, we're doing updates with the community center now. Who knows whether or not the plans would change. So we have to think for the future. And we have to think that is downtown. You want to expand the building. I mean, you may want to expand it so that it could have further use. I mean, looking at it, going in that building, I mean, I just think it needs to be on hold right now. And we keep that property because it is city property. I honestly feel that way for that reason.
Thank you, Alderwoman. Alderwoman Smith, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We've sold other downtown properties. This isn't a bluff property that's worth a lot of money that was done in 1980, but this is a little, can we show this on the screen?
Please show it.
Tiny
Please show
little
it.
square,
Still city property.
tiny little square. So anyway, but I'll call for the question. I'm gonna vote. Oh,
Well, we have someone still wanting to make comments. Thank you, Alderwoman. Alderman Dillard, you're recognized.
I'm sorry, Mr. Burns is not here. I've tried to call him and I maybe I can get a phone call afterwards, but my concern, I think.
He's a firefighter and he did get a
Right.
call.
But
and had to
that's
go
where
on.
he is now.
Yeah,
Okay.
he's on duty.
He was
Well,
here
good.
just a few minutes ago, but he's on duty.
It certainly takes more importance than whatever I may be able to add to it. Again, my concern is access and egress to the equipment. The other thing is the what does he intend to build there? Now you said I'm thinking it's a kiln that fires his clays and stuff. Is this going to be a wall that is as high as the wall that is adjacent to it, or that he's just recently constructed? I mean, just a few of those questions I think would help. And one question I'd like to offer to the attorney: is it possible that an easement would be available?
Yeah.
I think we could obviously retain an easement to that area where our equipment is.
Well, we own that.
We own everything up to this little block. It's in the back left corner of the lot, if you're looking at the lot.
We,
Well,
I think his description was in addition to the building to enclose that would have that kiln room in there. That would be his kiln room in the building. That's how I understand his proposal.
That would be a chemical.
Again, I guess
In addition to the building.
driving by there recently, he's already done a construction of a concrete block wall. I would assume that wall would go around the
Yes.
same footprint.
It would. And, however, we would make sure the city, would still have access to our equipment, adjacent to the building. And I don't believe what he has proposed actually goes as far as the
I want to be
equipment.
a
If
good
you look
neighbor
at the picture, the equipment
to someone that wants
is
to
outside of that zone.
continue this business, and I'm very excited that we have this type of industry here.
Yes.
And my recent position, was that my only problem is it's so small, and if I can get access to that equipment, but I think it would benefit for us to know what is the intent of the wall. Is it going to be painted? Is it going to be blocked? Is it just going to be left like it is?
And we can certainly, when we finally enter an agreement, we could make those stipulations then. We aren't agreeing to sell it at this time, but to entertain the offer by getting
And the attorney's got to
appraisals
come
and
back with
comparing.
the proposal for two offers.
That's
Thank
correct.
you, Mr. Mayor.
Yes.
Mr. Mayor, I have one comment.
Yes, Alderman Frazier.
The comment that I have to make is, like I said, he's trying to buy that piece of land there. But I don't know if you ever been to that building. It's a building behind it. If you're gonna use it for storage, you have a building that's behind it. That building behind it at one time used to be a little bar and grill back there.
Mm-hmm.
So if you want to use it, why can't you use the building in the back? If I'm not mistaken, I don't think he's using the building in the back. It's plenty of room behind this building. So like I said, that is one of the reasons why I'm opposed to this, because you have enough room to do what you want to do as a storage of pottery, because there's a building behind it. And I know for a fact that building behind it was big enough, because like I say, it was a bar and grill at one time.
The building,
As I understand, and I'll just, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's my understanding he has expanded into the building behind, and actually has his residence on the second
Correct, that's
level.
studio floor.
And I do want to just repeat that the management team for the Convention Center, Civic Center sees no reason for this property. It is landlocked. The fact that we have HVAC equipment on that side of the building limits the ability to ever expand the building in that area. There is no desire to expand the Civic Center. The plans that we have for the Civic Center now do not call for that. The ability to expand there would be so minimal. It's already in an area there, as you can see. That's just very. It's just remote. It's just sitting there. But we do have an active business and property owner, homeowner, who would beautify that area and make use of it. The other thing I would propose, and this is really my proposal going forward, as we look at surplus property, I'm hoping that the city can continue selling surplus property, just as we have with General Hospital and Margaret Martin and some others. That we could sell this and sell others and build two funds. We need a fund to help with the cleanup of dilapidated properties in our community. But we also need a fund for funds to repair and eventually renovate the Angeletti House. And as we move forward, I would like to see that any funds that we were able to secure from this, it would be enough to either demolish a dilapidated dwelling or it could be enough to put in a fund for the Angeletti House. Either one would be good use of these funds. Alderwoman Irving?
You mentioned the Angeletti House, and I'm glad you have mentioned it. We said we would apply for grants. What happened to the grants?
We have not applied for any grants yet, and we need matching funds for grants, and this is a way to start building some of those funds. We've had those discussions, No,
it said that the last discussion that I had said we would take a vote on whether or not a grant would be applied for that.
Well, the grant being discussed at that time had an October 31st deadline.
Right.
And the vote was to apply for that grant for the depot. That was done. And the fact that the city would not want two competing grants. The city, put in for one grant, that was the depot, but we did at the time discuss building a fund for the Angeletti House. And I believe this is a good way to start making deposits into that fund. Alderwoman Smith?
I was just gonna say, Ms. Irving, you and I talked about this, about wanting to, like, even with Mr. Heidelberg's, that was another thing we could earmark. If these go into a public property fund, then we can earmark some of them for immediate needs. And that's one of the immediate needs of a building that I think is special to the city. So I think it's a great idea to do that. And you and I talked about that.
I mean, we have.
Yeah.
But when he said Angeletti House, it just sends off the spark
Just
because
surplusing it.
so many things has transpired since that conversation. Because I thought we would check to see about the insurance on the building to see whether or not it's insured.
Okay.
Remember?
We have just been reminded that we need to limit discussion to the motion. We are now, I mentioned Angeletti House, didn't mean to get into a whole other discussion. Thank you, Mr. Attorney. We'll entertain discussion on the motion, or we'll call for the question.
Call for the question.
Second.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, please restate the question.
Okay. The motion.
The motion.
The motion is that we entertain the offer that Mr. Burns has made to purchase the property by declaring a surplus and by having two appraisals done and a survey done.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
All right. We will now proceed to a vote. Alderwoman Hall.
Aye.
Alderman Frazier.
Nay.
Alderwoman Smith.
Aye.
Alderwoman Irving.
Nay.
Alderman Davis.
Aye.
Alderman Dillard.
Aye.
The ayes have it. Motion carries. Thank you so much. And we'll proceed to get the appraisals done. At this time, we will now go back to approval of minutes. And Madam Clerk, thank you for your forbearance as we moved various areas around on the agenda.
No worries.
You're now recognized.
Thank you. On the list, I've got the November 8th, 2022 regular board meeting minutes. Those were not completed in time to make it out in your packets on Friday. So I will ask that we defer those until the first December meeting, but move forward with the approval pending the attorney's review for the October 25th, 2022 special call board meeting, which was the Finance Committee meeting held at 4 p.m. on that date, and the regular board meeting at 6 p.m. The same date, October 25th, 2022.
So moved.
Second.
There has been a motion by Alderwoman Hall to pass and approve, and seconded by Alderwoman Irving. Discussion?
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, Alderwoman Irving.
There are some corrections that need to be done on the minutes. There were some things omitted and some error in spelling. And I have it here with the corrections made. Maybe she can go
Okay.
back and listen to the tape being transcribed. So
Yes.
there was some information omitted.
Okay, and if you would also please maybe bring your corrections that you'd like us to look
I have
at.
it here, so you
Yeah.
can just.
Yeah. we
All
can-
right, thank
look
you.
at that.
Mhm.
Thank you. You know,
So Mayor, I can make a motion we defer those then.
yes,
We can't,
unless we see what those changes are.
we have to know what they are. Do you, I mean,
Yeah.
we
I have them here. Okay, for,
But we're not supposed to go through each change.
You need to call the clerk.
Alderwoman Irving, how long do you think it will take?
It's just a couple of minutes.
Okay.
Just a couple of minutes. Okay,
All
so beginning with Alderwoman Irving, there were information omitted. It's just the public hearing is being scheduled during working hours. Public hearings are for the public, and so it should be for hours that are conducive for them to attend a meeting
Mhm.
instead of 2 o'clock or 4 o'clock. And at this time, the meeting was held at 2. The other is you went to Los Angeles. It has
Las Vegas.
Las Vegas. It has Las Vegas.
Okay.
It's just a typo error.
Okay.
And then down here, when we had the discussion on the stop signs, it was omitted. I discussed one on Claiborne Street, and Mr. Frazier had discussed one as well. And so that was never mentioned in the
Okay.
minutes. That's why I said to transcribe. It was very minimal.
Those are
But
minimal.
those were there to be
Yeah,
addressed.
Those
And
are
we will make
minimal
sure that those
changes.
omissions are included.
Thank you so much. Any further discussion? We will call for the question. Yes, we've had a motion. We'll now proceed to a vote. All in favor of the motion indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Motion carries. Thank you. We now will move to Department Director reports. Mr. Johnston, you are recognized. And may I remind everyone, as soon as we dispense with Department Director's reports, we will be going into executive session.
Good evening, Mayor and Board.
Good
Good
evening.
evening.
I gave you in your packets a draft of my report. Very few changes, though there were some grammatical corrections I did make. First item, installation of turf at ball field number 1 and ball field number 2 at Duncan Park, part of the city's 2021 rec bond issue. Bid for the install of artificial turf was received at 10 o'clock a.m. on Thursday, November 10th in the clerk's office. The loan bid received is summarized as follows. From Geoservices, Inc., ball field number 1, $166,330. Ball field number 2, $194,270. Grand total, $366,600. In a previous conversation with Attorney Callaway in reviewing Mississippi Code 31713, since the bid exceeded the allocation of budgeted funds to complete the project, the city can only, 1, rebid the project with the same allocation and hope the next time the bids come in lower, or 2, allocate more money to the project and then rebid the project to turf the ball fields. Pleasure of the board.
What is the pleasure of the board?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, Alderwoman
I
Hall.
move that we reject this bid. It is well over the allotted amount that we have budgeted for this.
All right, motion has been made to reject the bid.
Second.
Seconded by Alderman Davis. Discussion. Yes, I can lead off some discussion here. I I saw Alderman Dillard today, and I said, may I be the first to say you were right? Didn't I? Yeah. He said that he didn't think
Won't
we could
happen very
accomplish
often.
this within that budget, and he was right. And our bond did provide $300,000 for the renovation of ball fields, along with all the other things. Obviously, this is way over that budget. I do want to say this, though. We're not going to give up on renovating the ball
Oh,
field.
no. What's that?
We just may have to have artificial grass put on the back burner and stick with real grass for now.
Put them in the dugout.
We actually are hearing some feedback that there are parents that don't want their children playing on artificial turf because it really is a turf placed over concrete, and it is a contributor to injuries, to severe burns, and other issues. So we have met with our staff, and Sonora Cole and Ivan Mays have assured us that we can have beautiful fields within the budget we have, and let's just not worry at this moment with artificial turf. Alderman Dillard.
Just briefly, Mr. Mayor, I think though to, consider some grading and drainage improvements to those fields so that they can, maximize the play. I think there's also the dirt infields, which really isn't dirt. I mean, in the sense that it's a particular select field that they use can be augmented with a material. It's usually like crushed brick that facilitates the evaporation of water. It improves the play. There's a lot of things you can do, and you will have money that you can do a lot of other things. So I would ask that Alderwoman that chairs the recreation would consider those suggestions that would improve the play. And I don't think the play will be diminished in any way. You will improve it and be very satisfied with it. Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Thank you. I'll also say another item being discussed now is just do what the pros do. Get a cover for the infield and get those little leaguers out there pulling it out when it starts raining. And when it stops raining, pull it back. The field's still dry and we can play. So it's all going to work out.
It's going to work out.
I'm going to call for the question.
Call.
We'll proceed to a vote. All in favor of the motion indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Motion carries. All right, Mr. Jones.
Yes, sir. Next item I have flooring and painting in Natchez City Hall. I did have some grammatical corrections I made on my notes here. That's from the city's 2020 Archives and History grant. Staff is requesting a motion to rescind the awarded quote bids to L. Scott Construction for painting and Thorpe Sheet Metal for flooring due to a change in the scope of work, and to request a motion to again receive quote bids for the installation of flooring and painting of City Hall. Changes to the scope of work include the installation of tongue and groove hardwood flooring in the downstairs corridor, standing of the stairwells, replacing of up to 6 doors versus painting in the downstairs corridor, etc. Pleasure of the board.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second. Motion made by Alderman Dillard, seconded by Alderman Davis. I'm excited about this. We, in looking at the plans, have identified ways to go more true to the original. And, if we're going to do it, let's do it right.
So you're sending back out for bids again?
Quote bids, yes, ma'am.
Quote bids.
Yes, ma'am. We expect each to come in less than $75,000.
Okay. So is it just for these two?
Activities, yes, ma'am.
Just for those two companies.
Just for those
Now
two.
we'll receive it. We'll actually solicit more,
Okay.
but those were the two lowest
Okay.
that I recited.
Okay. All right. That's what I wanted to ask.
All right, Mr. Callaway.
James, I've been busy and I'm sorry we hadn't called and talked, but I think I know the answer to this question. Just want to make sure these two contractors that we accepted bids on originally, they've graciously agreed
Yes.
to back out of those contracts.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
Mr. Mayor, and are
Yes,
those two bids
Alderman.
the last line in this item on your?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
All right. It's going to be beautiful and time for rededication in 2024. Can you believe, Mr. Mayor, we're actually getting that done? We want you there when we do this.
Call the question.
The question has been called. We will now proceed to a vote. All in favor of the motion indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Motion carries. I've just got to say this, Mr. Mayor, we're going to renovate this room too. I can't wait. Can't wait. And I think that's coming soon, isn't it? We're working toward it. Yeah. Mr. Johnson, you're next.
Next item is request for responses for energy services providers. Responses for ESPs were received in the clerk's office at 2:00 p.m. on Thursday, November 17th, 2022. The following companies responded: Schneider Electric Buildings America, Inc. and Path Company, LLC. Staff is requesting a motion to receive the proposals and to allow the mayor to establish a committee to review the proposals and to make a recommendation to the full board.
So moved.
Motion made by Alderman Hall, seconded.
Second.
Second by Alderman Frazier. We'll have discussion. Alderman Frazier, being that you are Chair of Utilities, I would like for you to be involved in that process and obviously work with James and Jody and Justin. Jody Rudder has had knowledge of these projects in the past, and Justin obviously has knowledge of our street lights. And then I also want to involve Richard Burke in this process on behalf of the mayor's office. So Alderman Frazier, if you would agree to serve on that committee.
Correct, yes.
And actually, as the utilities chair, we'd like for you to chair that committee.
Okay. James, just give me a call when you get ready to do it, please.
And I want to say this, the purpose of this is to look at anything we can do to have LED lights all across our city and to replace the older lights so that we can have safer neighborhoods. That's what our goal is. We'll see if we can get there. We'll call for the question.
One more, Mr. Mayor.
Yes.
I just want to piggyback on it. We already have LED lights already throughout the city, but we're doing it for the neighborhoods and places that we missed.
That's right.
So
A few years ago, Snyder worked with the city to have LED light improvement on city-owned poles. This is a strategy to address those Entergy-owned poles.
Well, we do have some on the Entergy poles too, because we did a pilot area.
Yeah.
And MLK was the pilot area, so they're there as well. MLK and Franklin Street.
Yes. But what really brought this about is, trying to fight crime, and depending on citizens to give you eyewitness accounts, for instance, the color of a vehicle. And LED lights, you get the true color of the vehicle. The older lights, you'll get a distorted color of the vehicle. And and it also affects what the cameras pick up. So let's hope that we can move forward with some good solution here.
May I, Mr. Mayor, one more thing?
Yes, Alderman.
What we're trying to do is we're trying to modernize the city of Natchez. As you know, we already the whole city, and these new lights they are going up throughout the country, and we're trying to. They got them in Pearl, Mississippi. I think the same company they work in Pearl, Mississippi, and other places. So as you say, we're trying to keep the whole city of Natchez safe, crime wise, and not only crime wise, and just to make the community more safe. So I just want to say that this is something that's been in the works for the first, I think about the first of the year. I think we looked into it. So we're on pace, on track, and trying to get that done. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Frazier. I'll call for the question.
Second. Call.
We'll proceed to a vote. All in favor of the motion indicate by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Motion carries. Next item.
Request for information, development of citywide open access fiber. Responses for this activity were received in the clerk's office at 2:30 p.m. on Thursday, November 17th. No responses were received.
Thank you. And this is actually not a disappointment. I have a great announcement. As you know, John Hilbert was here 2 weeks ago. And today marks the day, November 22nd, that we now have 1 gigabyte of service available to almost 100% of our citizens. We still have maybe 1 or 2 houses here, 1 or 2 there. And this has been done throughout our area at a cost of $6.5 million by Sparklight. It has not cost the city or the taxpayers anything. Now, we still have a desire to make sure that affordability is there and that programs are in place for any individuals who may not be able to afford internet. And so our next strategy will be to work with Sparklight, AT&T, C-Spire, and any other providers that we can identify to identify programs and grants that can make affordability more available in our city. But this is a major step forward for us, and it may be why we didn't get much interest in this RFI.
I was just going to say, President Biden has provided a connectivity program too.
Yes.
That allow residents of our community to sign up for and connect at $30 per month. Approximately $30 a month.
Isn't that
Yes, sir.
great? And we're going to be looking into that, and we're going to be providing more information about that into our community because it's so important, especially to our school children, that they have ability. And I'm looking at Mr. Jackson and Mr. West right now. I know these school children need to make good use of these tablets, and so. But isn't this a great step forward for the city of Natchez? And we thank Sparklight in making this possible.
I have one other question. Mr.
Yes,
Mayor.
Alderwoman Irving.
I want to ask MLK, that had been an area, so, and that was my question to him as well. Was it broadband that has been provided? So for the portion of Dr. Martin Luther King that was not able to connect to internet. So from the corner of East Franklin all the way up past Miss King restaurant, they're able to access
It
internet
is my
now.
understanding that 1 gigabyte service is now available in the majority of that area and perhaps the whole area
I'm hoping
through
all of
Sparklight.
Okay.
Through Sparklight, which represents an improvement of 3 to 5 times the speed that they've been experiencing.
Well, that's wonderful because then the museum and the other locations, Holy Family
Yeah.
School, Wedmore, all those places.
But we do need your help. Identify if there are areas that still are a problem. We need to know about it.
Right.
Because this is a continuing project.
Okay.
Yes, Alderwoman Smith.
We just go ahead and request that the street addresses for the ones they could not reach from them.
Yes,
Okay.
certainly.
Then we can publicize
we
that.
we can make a request for that. And I am told it is a very small handful. All right. All right. There was no action needed since we got no responses. Next item.
Yes, sir. Duncan Park Tennis Court expansion, also with the city's 2021 recreation bond issue. Sealed bids for the construction of 2 new tennis courts at Duncan Park were received yesterday, Monday at 2:00 p.m. A summary of the sealed bid received is as follows. Hope Enterprises LLC, $732,837 was the loan bid received. Staff is requesting a motion to reject the bid and to re-advertise.
So moved. Second.
Alderwoman Hall made the motion. Alderwoman Smith second. Discussion.
What was the number again?
732,837.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
I want to just say that I'm optimistic that there are other companies out there that would like to participate, and we will give them that opportunity.
Mr. Mayor, what was our
We aren't giving up on this.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes, Alderman Dillard.
What was our budget we were looking at for this tennis courts? 400,000.
We budgeted $400,000 for tennis.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. We'll call for the question.
Call. Second.
We'll proceed to a vote. All in favor of the motion indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Motion carries.
Y'all have a happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving to you, Mr. Johnson. Thank you. At this time, we are going to forego the remainder of our agenda until after the after the executive session. At this time, I will call for a motion to enter into executive session for the purposes of discussing personnel matters related to our police department.
So moved.
I had the open determination at the beginning of the meeting when I made the announcement. And so now we're just getting the motion. Motion was made, I believe, by Alderwoman Irving, seconded by Alderwoman Smith. Any discussion? We'll call for the question. We'll proceed to a vote. All in favor of the motion indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. The ayes have it, motion carries. Thank you. We hope that this won't take too
Happy
long.
Thanksgiving, everyone.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Stay
West
safe.
and everyone, thank you. we will provide a report, and we will then continue with our agenda. All right. We are back in regular session. I will right now call for a motion to adjourn our executive session.
So move.
Second.
Motion made by Alderman Davis, seconded by Alderwoman Irving. Discussion on the motion.
Call for the
Call for
question.
the question. We'll proceed to a vote. All in favor of the motion indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Motion carries. We now will have a report. The mayor and board of aldermen discussed personnel matters pertaining to the police department related to the pending transition of leadership. No action was taken during the executive session, just discussion, and that is our report. I will, though, entertain a motion at this time to accept the resignation of Joseph M. Daughtry Sr. as our chief of police effective December 31st, 2022.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by Alderwoman Smith, seconded by Alderwoman Irving. Discussion on the motion? We will call for the question.
Call.
Second.
We'll proceed to a vote. All in favor of the motion indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Motion carries. And we are very grateful to Chief Daughtry for his service, and we do look forward to his continued service between now and the end of the year as we work toward our transition. We now will invite city official reports. Alderwoman Hall, you're recognized.
I'd like to say that we had two wonderful ribbon cuttings on November 9th at North Natchez Park and at Duncan Park on the opening of our 6th playground that took us 2 years to restore. And I want to thank Ms. Cole and her staff for their hard work, particularly Ms. Cole. She did most of this work as one person, along with Mr. Good part-time, until she had a fully funded staff. And our renewal is not stopping here. We have much more to do. But at this point, I want to thank her for what she has done, and Mr. Burke for his assistance in those as well.
Thank you,
You're welcome.
Alderwoman.
That's all
Thank you.
I have tonight.
Thank you. Alderman Frazier?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I just
Yes,
want
sir.
to say how I participated in the Veterans Day Parade, which was hosted by Grand Marshal Mr. Levi Murray, who was 103 years old, who was the Grand Marshal Parade. Parade turned out, it was pretty good. It was a nice parade and had a great little turnout. Also, we marched down Main Street, me and the mayor, and like I say, it was a great time for the city of Natchez. And I would just like to say, next year, I'm looking forward to more participation than we had. So thank you, Mr. Mayor. That's the end of my report.
Thank you, Alderman Frazier, and I enjoyed participating in that parade with you. And we did call you out for your service at the program at the end, just so you know. Alderwoman Smith?
Oh, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to tell everybody a happy Thanksgiving, and I do want to reiterate what Alderwoman Hall said. I mean, it's one thing to be a new department head, but then jump in and have to take on so many projects and starting from scratch on getting events and things together for the kids. And she's done an excellent job. And I thank her and Richard and Alderwoman Hall. I know they all put a lot of time into that. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Thank you. We now go to Alderwoman Irving.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would like to wish everyone a safe and happy Thanksgiving holiday. Thanksgiving is a time to reflect on our blessings of our family, our friends, and our community, and just to remember how thankful we are for our loved ones, our family, and members of this community, and to extend a happy holiday to each and every member here on this board. I also would like to inquire about appropriations for the MLK Triangle. When we did appropriations for our budget year, we said we set aside $1,000 for that, the inflatables down in that area. So I wanted to ask, had that money been dispensed for the triangle? It's $1,000.
The $1,000, that was last year?
No, I did this year in the budget, and it was what we added to this year.
We didn't do an additional amount designated to the inflatables in this year's budget, excuse me, because in the discussion with Christmas and Natchez, they were going to use some of their appropriation from the city along with other funds to help add to the triangle area with Christmas
So the
decorations.
inflatable still will go on, and my reason for saying that was one of the things that I particularly, and I know we know that we would set aside $1,000. I specifically asked for
Right,
that amount.
Another specific just for the inflatables was not in the current year budget. We did do an appropriation last fiscal year for $1,000, which they bought the inflatables, which were stored and will be put back out this year along with additional Christmas decorations as part of Christmas and Natchez. We spoke with them and they said that they were going to help kind of up the ante for what's going on down there.
Okay. Also, I'm inquiring about lights. We had mentioned lights, but out there in the area of Liberty Road, and I know they're not our lights, but do we have an update? Because it's very dark coming around the area that they just resurfaced, coming from Liberty Road up into, I think the Sergeant Prentice Drive. That area is really dark there. And also, when we get past Walgreens, coming from Sergeant Prentice Drive or Devereaux Drive, it's really dark in that area too. And it is the black pole lights. They're completely out. It's about 6 on Liberty Road that's out there. And there are about 4 on Devereaux Drive that's dark. Past that bridge going there, it's pretty dark there.
Okay, thank you. We will certainly look into that. Did you?
And my
Were you-
Suggestion on.
Okay, we'll
But
wait
we'll wait,
though.
yeah.
Yes.
No, finish.
Alderman Irving,
And I had
please
one other thing I
continue.
want to get with Mr. Burks. We had talked about a fall cleanup for the city of Natchez. And so that we can get our committee to meet again so that we can get that going too.
Okay, all right,
And that ends my report. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
all right. Thank you. Alderwoman Smith, you had something?
I would like our street, and this is on par with having such a hard time at night. I did have some elderly folks in my ward that have been talking about striping. I would like to see the street committee get together and work on a striping plan because we've got some needs.
Yes,
and,
there is some
it's
needs.
very, very hard to see on several roads at night. Little Woodville's one of them. So we can just get a meeting after the holidays on that.
We actually did put a request in today that striping be addressed on Lower Woodville Road. We did
Well,
make
there's
a
some other
request
streets too.
today.
That's one of the things
Certainly.
I lost a member of our community, Mr. William Blow. And that was one of the things that he would have addressed here at the board, was that striping. He said it's much needed.
Yeah.
And it's in a lot of our main streets. Dr. Martin Luther
Okay.
King is one of them. It's just a number of streets that are in need of striping.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Mhm.
Okay. Alderman Davis, your report?
I'd just like to wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving, and I attended the Veterans Day program that called in very nice. Also, the mayor, he was there too, and that ends my report.
Thank you. And I want to say also thank you for your service, Alderman Davis. And it was a pleasure being there with you at that great event at Colin. Alderman Diller?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I get the end of the line, so I sound like a repeat, but certainly happy Thanksgiving and Merry Christmas to everyone. And particularly, Mr. Mayor, I want our folks out there to pay patronage to our local businesses, our local shops, and our local retailers. It just makes a huge difference. Small things generate huge results, and that's one of them. It's been estimated that somewhere probably between 25 and 30% of our retail dollars go out of town at this time of year. And wouldn't it be a surprise if we could recapture that? And if you go to your retailers and they don't have it, ask them and see if they can't get, because everything rolls on the truck and they can get it. And if you want a bargain, you can go to our malls. Bill has a bargain every time I walk in there. I take a calculator to figure out how much money I saved when I went in there. Our downtown merchants, Franklin Street, Main Street, it's just a huge thing. And if you can't think of anything to get someone, give them a gift card to one of our retailers here in town. Small is big. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Like that report. Appreciate it. All right, we'll now go to the city clerk.
Okay. First item I've got is a request for the approval of the 2nd November 2022 claims docket.
What's the pleasure of the board?
So moved.
Second. Motion made by Alderman Dillard and seconded by, I'm going to recognize Alderwoman Smith. They were pretty much time making that motion.
Yeah.
All right. We'll now, as the second, we'll now have discussion. Yes, Alderwoman Irving.
Okay, so I'm on page 4, and this is what was snow. Is this all the payments? And then I see them on our claims docket too.
There were several invoices that, well, no, I'm sorry, that's the wrong company. But a lot of this, most of this is going to be redistricting expenses for Butler Snow.
Okay.
I mean, I could look back and see, what other specifics, but the bulk of that is redistricting.
Okay, and then I have a question too on page 32. The removal of 100 gallons of water, what area was that? It's in
I
police. It's in police.
Yeah,
And
I would have to
just-
check with Jody to see what exactly that was, because that's being paid out of public properties. So that would have been an invoice submitted by Jody.
Okay. And my last question is, Reese Across America, is it too late for that, Mayor?
No, we have budgeted for that, and I believe we've already approved that expenditure.
No,
haven't we?
He just
I'm not
got-
asking that. I'm asking because I've had calls from other members of the community inquiring.
They have until, it was in the paper. I don't know
I
that
don't- I'm not
information.
sure what the
It's not too
deadline is.
late,
Okay,
but it's
so
getting
Mr. LaFrancis
close.
is the contact person?
Yes.
Okay, Mr. Martin, okay. All right, that ends my question.
All right. Any other discussion? We'll call the question. Call. We'll proceed to a vote. All in favor of the motion indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. The ayes have it, motion carries. Next item.
Okay. Next item is request for approval of the 2nd November 2022 mini claims docket.
What's the pleasure of the board?
So moved.
Motion made by Alderman Davis, seconded by Alderwoman Hall. Discussion.
Call the question.
Question's been called. Will, second?
Second.
We'll proceed to a vote. All in favor of the motion indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Motion carries. Next item.
Okay, next item I have is request for approval of the interfund transfers, which the list was provided in your packets. We had 5 transfers, the first being in the amount of $123,114.41 for the police department portion of biweekly payroll, which was a transfer from the ARPA fund to the 630 payroll clearing. The second being $63,212.87, which was the fire department portion of biweekly payroll, again from ARPA fund to the 630 payroll clearing account. Then we had transfer from the 640 fund, which is the 2008 TIF bond construction, which is the Natchez Convention Center Hotel TIF bond. It was transferred to the 200 bond and interest in the amount of $9,387.63, so that the interest payment could be wire transferred for that bond. Then there was a transfer in the amount of $200,000 from the 107 food and lodging tax fund to the 200 bond and interest, and this was owed to bond and interest for the last convention center bond payment that was made. And also $36,391.25 also owed to bond and interest for the last convention center bond payment from the 020 gaming revenue fund to bond and interest.
So moved.
Second. Motion made by Alderwoman Smith and seconded by Alderwoman,
I think somebody down.
Alderman Davis. Discussion on the motion?
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, Alderman Dillard.
It just occurred to me when you was reading that out that the convention center has now been paid off, the last payments. And it has been a long time getting here. They just kind of skipped over that. You ought to make a bigger announcement.
Yeah,
than
put it there.
that.
Oh, no, the last payment that we made, not the final
Oh,
payment.
jeez.
We have two more payments on that.
They have been pre-funded through the
Oh, you're
bond we just
a little
did.
trickery. Well, I know, but
But
it is.
they
Have
no
a
longer are
celebration
impacting
for
our budget like they used to.
Not the
And that
last.
is a real blessing. That is a real blessing.
Well, just scratch that. If anybody.
But it's only 2 more payments, so.
We
That's
will
right.
celebrate that for sure.
Only 2 more payments.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Any further discussion?
Call for the question.
Questions been called? We'll proceed to a vote. All in favor of the motion indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Motion carries. Next item.
Next item I have is request for approval of the order of the mayor and board of aldermen for the tax abatement application for 107 South Canal Street. This was application of Mr. Kevin Stone for, again, the property on Canal Street. The term of 7 years to commence on, for the tax year beginning January 1 of 2022. Met all of the requirements as far as going before the planning and preservation boards, being cleared through planning. All proper documentation was received. Did repairs and renovations in the amount of just over $232,000. Which would qualify them for the full 7 years, which would freeze the current appraised value of the property for those 7 years.
So moved. Motion made by Alderwoman Hall.
Can you explain a little bit more on that?
I need
second
a-
motion.
I
Okay.
need a second
Okay, second,
first.
second.
Okay, Alderwoman Irving has seconded.
Alderman Dillard second.
Oh, did Alderman Dillard? Okay, Alderman Dillard, I am so
I didn't hear
sorry.
it. It didn't matter. Mayor.
Alderwoman Irving,
It
you're
doesn't matter.
recognized.
Yeah, I just wanted more detail on the information, that's all.
Okay.
So this,
107.
this was an application, the first application actually received for the tax abatement program and offering that the Board of Aldermen actually approved that ordinance in May of 2021. So it allows for a tax abatement freezing of the current appraised value of the property, rather than having it be reappraised and the taxes going up due to renovations and repairs to properties. So this is the first application that came in. We'd like to get it approved, and I would be taking it to the Board of Supervisors for their first December meeting to make sure that this is registered with the county prior to the 2022 tax bills going out.
Thank you.
All right. And so any further discussion? We're just glad to see that this tax abatement is being utilized. We understand other properties are planning to utilize it, and it definitely does incentivize a lot of great investment and renovation in our city. We'll call for the question.
Second.
We'll proceed to a vote. All in favor of the motion indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. The ayes have it.
And actually, Mr. Mayor, for the
Motion
sake
carries.
of this order, it's done as a roll call.
Oh, so it's a roll call?
Yes,
I'm sorry. I should have remembered that. Alderwoman Hall.
Aye.
Alderman Frazier. Alderwoman Smith.
Aye.
Alderwoman Irving.
Aye.
Alderman Davis. Alderman Dillard.
Aye.
The ayes have it. Motion carries.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Next item.
Next and last item on my report is request for the approval of travel, and I've got several dates listed here. First being December 14th through December 16th of 2022. excuse me. This would be travel to Flowood for the Mississippi Municipal Clerks Winter Conference and IIMC, which is the International Institute of Municipal Clerks, Region 4 Conference. And this would be for myself, my Chief Deputy Denise Bell, and for my Deputy Clerk, also Rebecca Turner. Next date would be December 21st, 2022. Travel to Jackson, and that would be for the PERS report on the annual evaluation of the municipal retirement systems. That would be for myself. Next would be February 14th through the 17th, 2023, to Ridgeland for the municipal clerk certification classes for Ms. Denise Bell and Ms. Rebecca Turner. And April 11th through the 14th, 2023, to Oxford for municipal clerk certification classes for myself. And then finally, on this list, May 13th through the 18th, 2023, to Minneapolis, Minnesota for the annual International Institute of Municipal Clerks Conference for myself.
So
Okay.
moved.
So moved.
Motion made by Alderwoman Hall, seconded by Alderwoman Irving.
Mhm.
Discussion
Yes,
on the
Mr. Mayor.
motion. Alderman Frazier.
Megan, I got an invitation to go to that too. This one in
To
Prairie.
Minneapolis? Okay.
Yes.
Oh, to PERS.
Yeah,
Okay,
PERS.
in December. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they encourage any board
Yeah.
members and the mayor, whoever
I
would like
got
to
I got
attend.
an invitation.
So anyone that would like to attend, if y'all let me know, then I'll kind of
Sure.
RSVP for all of us at the time.
Okay.
Thank you.
I would like to attend to
Thank you. Well, in that case, we will need to amend the motion to allow travel also to the PERS event for Alderman Frazier, Alderwoman Hall.
Just tentative,
Alderwoman-
man. I'm just letting.
Alderwoman Hall, you're not going.
I'll
You're
just let them know.
tentative?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
we'll approve that at our next meeting.
Yeah,
pending,
yeah.
you know.
That's no.
You do? Okay, we're going to go ahead and approve it for Alderwoman Irving. And Alderwoman Hall, since you made the motion, is that fine as an
Sure.
amendment?
Yes.
And of course, Alderwoman Irving seconded that. Okay. We will ask for any other discussion. We'll then call for the question.
Call.
We'll proceed to a vote. All in favor of the motion indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Motion carries. Does that conclude your report?
That is it, Mr. Mayor.
All
Thank you.
right, Mr. Attorney,
Happy Thanksgiving.
happy Thanksgiving.
Same to you.
And that is your report?
That was it.
All right. Thank
Sure,
you.
man.
And we want to, Mr. Callaway has been through a lot in the last couple of months. And it was a couple of weeks ago, we expressed our condolences in the passing of his mother. But tonight I wanted to express our congratulations and best wishes on the marriage, the beautiful marriage of his daughter, Wesley, to a handsome young man named Newt. What a beautiful couple they make. But I have to say, the bride was definitely prettier than the groom.
Good genetics.
Thank
Thank goodness for her mother.
All right. I have just a few brief items on my report. We every year do make accommodations for temporary security services for the Natchez Bluff, other downtown areas during the Christmas season by lane investigation. We would like for your approval on this, following the same contract we've been using the last 2 years and the same terms
So moved.
In the same location?
and the same location.
So you may, okay, all right, yes.
They
Second.
make rounds all the way through downtown. Okay, Alderwoman Hall has made the motion. Alderwoman Irving has seconded. Any discussion on the motion? We'll call for the question. We'll
Second.
proceed to a vote. All in favor of the motion indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Motion carries. I do want to give you an update on the police grant for schools. This is the COPS grant. We've had numerous conversations, and in fact had a conversation just today with the superintendent of education, Mr. Butcher, and he has asked that we delay action on this grant until the school board can fully vet it and decide whether or not they will provide the funds for the match. We also understand that a request is being made by Addie Stover, our grant writer, for an extension of time in accepting the grant. We'll have more information at a later time. Under miscellaneous updates, I do need to bring to your attention something. I have been invited to make a trip to Washington, D.C., December 15th through the 19th. This will include meetings with the French ambassador, Philippe Etienne, as a follow-up to his visit here in October. Also, attendance at an event at the French embassy during that time. Also, meetings with Mr. Frank Smith, who is the executive director of the African American Civil War Museum, to discuss our monument to the U.S. colored troops and possible funding strategies. And during that trip, I also will be meeting with representatives in congressional offices and in other agencies pertaining to grants and other funding requests for the city. So I need approval to go. The trip will be December 15th, leaving on that Thursday and returning on the night of December 19th, which is a Monday, which gives me a full Monday for meetings in Washington. And there is one night of that trip that the city will not have to pay for because the French ambassador is providing those accommodations. And we're just very grateful. Who made that motion?
Yeah.
Alderman Davis and Alderwoman Irving seconded. And thank you. We'll call for any discussion. Call for the question. We'll proceed to a vote. All in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Motion carries. You have to be careful what you ask for. When I invited him to come here, I never imagined all of this would be happening. And we are discussing a sister city relationship with a city in France. So we'll see how all that. I do want to say happy Thanksgiving, as everyone has said, and kind of like you said, Alderman Dillard, I'm really late to it. Everyone has said it now before me, but I want to remind everyone that this is a season. We're entering a season where there are so many who are doing without. Just today, Dr. Carolyn Myers helped me to find lodging for a homeless individual, temporary lodging, and also to find utility relief for someone whose gas had been cut off. I am so grateful that we have individuals like that in our community. Just yesterday, they gave away almost 200 bags of sweet potatoes. This weekend, we had dinner fed through Rehoboth Church of God in Christ and Pastor DeJuan Lewis. Over 400 people were fed. We also are excited. Carla Brown will be having a community Thanksgiving celebration on Thursday from 11 to 2. And we are so grateful. She will most likely serve about 400 people there. There are so many other things. We just don't have all night to say them. Let me just say this. We are grateful to be in a city that shows its faith through action and its love, not just through words, but through deeds. And it is truly inspiring to see what's happening in our city. During this time of Thanksgiving, take a moment to consider those who are less fortunate. And even though things don't go our way every day and we don't get all the things that we want, we have to remember that we are so blessed because there are so many who are in need. And I want to make sure they are first on our prayer list during this holiday season.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes,
I would just
Alderwoman.
like to add to your comment about Dr. Myers. She did, I was there, and the First Lady was there volunteering as well. Many of Dr. Myers' Seed of Change Foundation members were there in her board, volunteers. She distributed 179 bags of potatoes.
It's wonderful.
So,
Thank you.
wonderful job.
Thank you for your service. We will call now. By the way, he was on the report, but I want to acknowledge Chief Arrington for always being there. Thank you. And I want to say also, Dustin, thanks for all you do. And a time of Thanksgiving, what will we do without our men and women in uniform? And I want to thank Commander Green, Commander Jones for their pledge to work in leadership during this transition to make sure that not a single thing is missed. We're grateful that the city of Natchez has capable leadership within our ranks and that the chief is still our chief until the end of this year. I will now acknowledge anyone who'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second. All right, Alderman Davis and seconded by Alderwoman Smith. Anyone opposed to the motion? If you are, you can stay here by yourself. Motion carries. We stand adjourned. Thank you.